Hi everyone. Welcome to your channel. In this episode, we will read the novel The Devil's Empire. The author of this book, Omid Farhadi, is a freedom-loving Iranian who wrote this novel in protest against the dictatorial rule and the suffocation that prevails in Iran. All of this novel is written according to authentic documents and is completely true. However, by adding some things, the author tries to make the story exciting. Chapter 1. United Nations of America, Manhattan, New York. Day. At 15:25. The representatives of different countries are sitting in the United Nations lecture hall and are waiting for the speech of the representative of Iran, Dr. Farhadi. When Dr. Farhadi entered the hall, as a journalist and political activist, the audience started clapping. Dr. Farhadi stands behind the tribune and starts speaking. In the few minutes that I walked from the front door to here, the blood of several innocent youths was shed. They are killed for the crime of awareness and protest. Because the foundation of the dictatorial government is built on shedding blood. The rulers of this religious government consider themselves the representative and chosen of God on earth, and have no fear of killing people. They kill the opponents. Because they have to die, their followers and soldiers also die in the way of killing the opponents. And in the midst of this killing, God's representatives promise hell to the dead opponents, and paradise to the killed soldiers. Both groups die and God's representatives become more powerful and wealthy. I and millions of Iranians live in a place where 9% of the world's resources and wealth are located. But people do not live like the richest 9% of the world. The country's resources and wealth are spent on terrorism and unrest in the Middle East. Iran's resources and wealth are spent on making bombs and weapons. Because Iran's rulers turn the world into hell so that people can die in peace and with the promise of heaven. But their children and families live in America and European countries, because the hell that their fathers built is not a suitable place for them. Iranian women and girls are humiliated because they are weak. They are abused and sold as commodities. They do not have the right to wear whatever they want. They receive lower monthly salaries than men and have difficult living conditions. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most evil government on earth. If we don't do anything today, the devils will become stronger and stronger. I am Dr. Farhadi. Thank you for listening to my speech. With the applause of the audience, the doctor comes from the lower age and goes to the exit door. The exit door of the United Nations building. A large crowd has come to welcome Dr. Farhadi. Dr. Farhadi passes through the crowd and approaches the car. Suddenly, a strong man came to the doctor from the middle of the crowd and said in a loud voice, "Doctor, it was a good speech, but you forgot an important point." The doctor looks at the man's face with a surprised expression and says, "What did I forget?" The man took out a Colt weapon and shot the doctor in the face. The doctor fell on the ground with a bloody face, and the crowd panicked and screamed. The man raised his hands, shouted, and said, "We are everywhere. We will kill all our enemies. We will destroy the White House. Death to America, death to England, death to Israel." These slogans belong to the Islamic Republic of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps terrorist group and show their anger and hatred towards Western civilization. The police security officers rush towards the man and knock him to the ground. The terrorist man smiles strangely and looks inside his clothes. The security officer opens the corner of his clothes and suddenly a suicide bomb explodes. Suddenly, everywhere was filled with fire, smoke and blood. USA National Security Agency at 7:30 a.m. Security meeting with the presence of U.S. military commanders and ranks at the office of the U.S. National Security Agency. Major Travis, commander of anti-terrorist operations, enters the meeting room. The audience stands up in respect. Major shakes his head with an angry face and says, "Please sit down." At this moment, the photo of the terrorist is shown on the screen behind the major. Major Travis looks at the screen and says, "Ibrahim Mohammadi is a 32-year-old Iranian youth who has a history of working in Lebanon's Hezbollah, Iran's Revolutionary Guards, and fighting with ISIS. This person sacrificed himself for the goals of the leader of Iran and in his last operation killed 33 American citizens, including Dr. Farhadi, a reporter and author against the Iranian political system. Now I invite you to watch the last clip of the terrorist. The latest recorded movie of the terrorist man is playing. The terrorist man stands in front of the camera and smiles. After a few seconds start talking. My name is Ibrahim Mohammadi. I am a soldier and a devotee of my leader. I sacrifice my life to my leader. Every drop of my blood is sacrificed to my leader. I sacrificed my life and property and my whole family to my leader. I will do my last sacrifice in the heart of the enemy, and I will punch the Americans in the mouth. I hope God will bring me to the peace and grant me heaven. The terrorist man fists his hands and shouts, "Death to America, death to Israel, death to England." After the end of the movie, the major turns to the audience and says, "Some of the words of this terrorist may seem incomprehensible and strange, but the important point is that Mr. Djali, at this moment, Djali's photo is displayed on the screen, leader of millions of bloodthirsty and terrorist soldiers that are ready to carry out terrorist operations all over the world at any moment. I am very angry and of course surprised. How can he train such bloodthirsty and terrorist soldiers? Iranian terrorists are not afraid of death and are even willing to die with pride. They have become mindless zombies who are thirsty for killing and bloodshed. Of course, we sent many agents to Iran many years ago to spy and find out military secrets, but unfortunately it was not successful and we have no news of them now. This shows the strength of the information system and the propaganda of the Iranian political regime. The only thing I want to know is, how can such bloodthirsty and terrorist soldiers be trained? The major turns to Captain Murphy and says, "Captain Murphy, as the deputy commander of the army forces, can you give orders to your soldiers for such a terrorist operation?" Captain Murphy, surely the honor of an American soldier would never allow us to do such a thing. Our soldiers destroyed the enemy on the battlefield, not in the street. What has made dictatorial governments powerful is not their big budgets and armies. The main power of dictatorial governments in the Middle East, including Iran, is the power of propaganda and religious teachings that have been dictated to people since childhood. They claim that they are the representatives of God on earth, and millions of people obey their orders because their words are the words of God. People worship their bloodthirsty and powerful leaders and are ready to die to achieve their goals. We put out fire of Middle East every time. But the ashes catch fire again. Captain Johnson got up and started talking. "Sir, we all know that the relatives and children of Iranian politicians live ultimately wealth and safety in America. Major Travis, of course, America is a country of freedom and democracy. It doesn't matter how bad and criminal their fathers are, we have nothing to do with their children and families." Captain Johnson, exactly, they live freely in America. Human organ trafficking, espionage, and murder are some examples of their smallest crime. Major Travis, what do you think should do with them? Captain Johnson, allow me to arrest and interrogate every single relative and child of Iranian politicians. Major Travis, well, Captain Johnson, you are in charge of this case. All necessary permissions will be given to you.